Hello. So this is episode 9.0. and I don't know what to feel about this episode because starting from here, it's kind of things started going downhill for me. Especially this year. It's my least favorite year of maybe my entire lifetime. One of my least favorite years. I had a couple more years that I didn't like it at all. Couple more years in my lifetime, but nothing compares to this one. so, so let's see what unraveled this year. So, like I said, when we started building our home, we already had a home, a first floor, but when we were building up the second floor, we the one of the big things that I was really excited about, like I said, first we just thought it'll be 2 rooms, then we said it's three, then we added another room finally. So when we just said it was 2 bedrooms, one of the my parents didn't really have like a proper bedroom in the single floor. One side of the bedroom open into the it was actually like a dining room, but they used to use that as the bedroom, and there was an inner room that they used to use as the puja room. So and the room in the backyard that used to be used by my mama. So initially they thought there'll be 2 rooms, and one of them was going to be my parents' bedroom, and one of them they were going to. My brother was close to like turning 16, so one of them they thought they'll give it to my brother. But later on, when their plans expanded to adding a kitchen upstairs and then a veranda and then another room, so now it was like 5 additional rooms in our top story. So my dad and mom said that I could have that additional room, which was as my room. So I was super, super, super excited about this, because it was my ultimate. After I visited my dad's, friend's family in Bidar, that wing commander, and his daughter, after seeing the daughter having her own room, ever since that day, like ever since I was for the past 2 years, I just all I wanted was like my own room. I wanted it so badly. So I was super excited about this, and also I couldn't wait, till the house was fully constructed to have my own room. So what I did was, I actually built my own room within the bedroom, my parents' bedroom. They had a they had some cane furniture that used to be their main furniture, that they had actually purchased from my grandparents. So that cane furniture was in my Amma and Tataya's home in the 10 MIGH. And it used to be painted cream, and it had like a diamond check pattern with a dash inside it. And then after we purchased it, we painted it yellow, and the diamond pattern, which was kind of like a maroon when my grandparents had it, they painted it red, and the dash they made it like a plus. So that was an improvement. So it was like a big cane sofa, and I think 2 cane chairs. So that used to be our main furniture. But after Mara, our carpenter, built this nice built-in furniture that, remember, and I said everybody came and saw it when I was around 7. We had this cane furniture, but it got moved to my parents' bedroom like a seating area. So I had this brilliant idea, like all that furniture used to face the bed. So what I did is I took the big sofa and faced it backwards to where my parents' bed was. And then I faced the other 2 cane chairs to the window where the wall ended. So I had a little bit of a tiny, I would say, uh, 2 feet. If you include the sofas, it was about 6 feet by 6 feet by 7 foot. Maybe I'm over expanding it. Not even that much. Maybe like 5 by 7 area that I could enclose and make it my room. And I put my books there. I put my shelf there. So when I made it, my parents were very impressed. They're like, "Oh, you made this little room for yourself." So with just the furniture partition. And I started sleeping in that cane sofa. It was, I think, my most pleasant, thrilling memory that I had my own room. Really, it was really, 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 really thrilling for me that I had my own space. So, so I made that, and outside of it, of course, it was within the bedroom. My brother, because he was a little older, he started sleeping in that in the living room when the construction was going on, and I would sleep in this area, and my parents with the baby would sleep in their bed in the bedroom, in the main part of the bedroom. So this was the situation, and around this time, I got the news that I got admitted into St. Anne's. My family was very, very thrilled. So my dad actually took me um, 1 week before. We got the list of books and this thing, and he took me 1 week before, which was very, very nice of him, and oriented to me. So I was in class 4, section B, 4th B. Okay. So he took me there, and he showed me, this is where your classroom would be. It was upstairs, and there was a canteen. In my old school, there was no canteen. This was a canteen. There was a canteen there, very fascinating, and there was a bookstore, and there was a principal's office, and there was a church where mass used to happen, a big ground, and it was a proper school. The school I went to was a very kind of exclusive, like boutique school, which catered to only certain sections of the society, and it was run very well. But this was a proper school with managed by the Catholic, under the Catholic diocese and all that. So it was a proper Catholic school. So I was very excited. Then he also showed me how to make my way to my grandma's house during lunch and have lunch there. That was the arrangement. I'd have lunch there and I'll come back. So that was good. So what happened was, the first day of my school started. I was very intimidated because they used to take attendance. There were 80 kids, so they would take attendance, and I still remember my roll number was 84. So I think there were 86 kids in my class because I remember my roll number was 84. So, whereas in the old school, there was no roll numbers. They used to just call us by names. So they didn't even take attendance. There's only like 16 kids in my 3rd grade where I graduated from. So if the kid didn't show up, they knew that the kid didn't show up. So there was a proper attendance, and then there was an assembly, and it was all so intimidating. In the assembly, there was prayer to be said. There was so much to learn. And I was very intimidated that I wouldn't be able to learn it. So along with me, there was one more. There were no new kids. I was the only new kid, actually. I thought there was one more kid who joined, but there were none. But there were 2 kids who transferred from A section to B section. So at least I felt okay. At least they could maybe show me the ropes a little bit. So one of the kids was Lakshmi, who was actually my Ammama's friends, who used to Jagan Mohan Rao Gari Bharya's daughter. So I noticed, I saw her from a distance, and I realized that, oh, it's the same girl. I was not her friend at that point. So the teacher introduced me to a kid. Her name was Madhuri, and she was very dynamic. Actually, I'm still her friend even now. So she said, sit next to Madhuri. I sat between Madhuri and Mathuri. Her name was Amruta Mathuri. and Madhuri on one side. So similar names. So I sat between them and they showed me, like, this is first day, you have a rough book. It was very overwhelming. So many subjects and this and that. But what was most overwhelming was the testing system. So the school I came from, you had a quarterly exam and then you had a half yearly exam and then you had a final. And then throughout the year, the focus was on learning. And they, because of the teacher to student ratio, there's only 16 kids in a class. They knew which kid was not learning, was not picking up. It's not like they didn't have punishment. It's not like they didn't like scold the kids, but it was more they could pick up on who was not learning. Whereas when you have 60, 70, 80, 90 kids in a class, the focus was not so much on ensuring that they learned. The focus was on weeding out, right? So the focus was on weeding out. So they're like, they knew and to be noticed, you either had to be really, really, really good, like in the first 10 ranks, A grade, B grade, C grade. They didn't care. They didn't even know. And then, or you had to be really, really, really awful, like E and F grade, D, E, and F grades, like failures. Those people they would have an eye on. And in the middle, the sea of kids who were getting by, they didn't care about. Whether they learned or not, they didn't really care. They wanted to focus on making sure that nobody failed and making sure that they could leverage the first 10 ranks kids as, like, class monitors and assistants and teaching the other kids. So it was a very strange system. And because of this, there was fierce competitiveness amongst the top 10 ranks. Very, very fierce competitiveness. Back in my school, it was only 16 kids in a school. So it was a given that, Anu will get first rank, or between Anu and Astra, the first two ranks will be shared. A couple of other kids got the third, fourth rank. And after that, everybody got a rank. And the people who got 14, 15, 16, like, we didn't really consider them dullards or anything like that. But here, there was a very clear category. And it was their funny names. And I think back then in all schools, they used to use these names. So the first 10 ranks were the clevers. They used to call them the clevers. And not just in my school, in all schools. And these F, D, E, and F students, they call them moddus. And this was the first time I heard like these labels, When I look back, it's so wrong. It's so wrong at such a young age. After all, we were all only 8 and 9. I was only 8 when I joined the school. So it is so wrong to give those labels. So and the new students would be like the newcomers, right? Newcomer. So they hadn't, until the first exam, they didn't really know where to place you. And everybody in between, they didn't care. No, they were not noticed. They were this sea of unnoticeable, mass of students between. So there were 10 kids or 10 to 20 kids who were considered like, moddus, and about 10 kids were considered clever. And the rest 50 were this, nobody knew about them. So, and to follow this process, the way the teachers ensured, they didn't really ensure that you learned. It was more like they monitored you. When I look back, it was more, they would teach something, but then they would test you to see who retained it and who didn't, so that they can monitor who the clevers and the moddus, and nobody cared in the middle. So every month they'd have an assignment and a unit test, and then they had a quarterly exam, and for the quarterly exam they had a preparatory exam, and then an assignment and a unit test, and an assignment and a unit test, and an assignment and a unit test, then a half yearly exam, and then an assignment and a unit test, an assignment and a unit test, an assignment and a unit test, and then the final exam. So it Oh, got very confusing and overwhelming because in the last school, like I said, we had a half yearly exam, not even a quarterly, and a final exam. And we got a report card on the day of the final exam. Here you had a report card, like, yellow, I think it was green in color, maybe. I'm trying to remember if it was green, pink, or yellow. I think it was yellow, like a light yellow. And then they had all these columns with all the subjects, so many subjects. And then on top of this, they also had SUPW, music. SUPW is like crafts, like socially useful, productive work. So they had that, and they used to get marks on everything. Games. Uh, so like a gym period, and arts and crafts and music. And you would think, wow, this is so. In the beginning I was like, wow, they teach music here. And my parents told me, you learn all kinds of more things, music and arts and crafts, and you'll have games. But the problem is, these are not fun activities anymore when you're graded on them. So you could easily lose your A grade if you are not such a good athlete. So you used to get grades in them also. So this became a very stressful method for me to adjust to. And keep in mind that from kindergarten to third grade, like, for the past 5 years of my life, I had not got anything but first rank. So for me, it was overwhelming as to how I'll even manage that first rank. And I started feeling a little bit like an imposter. I thought, my God, they'll find out, everybody will find out at home, and everybody else will find out that I'm actually not first rank material, because I didn't think that I could pull off a first rank here with this system. It was so many subjects and so many exams. And so I felt very, very fearful that uh, I'll get found out, I'll get caught, that I'm not really first rank material. Um, I thought I realized that this is a very overwhelming. So, anyways, first assignment and unit test, I gave sincerely, and I was very nervous when the report card came and it got graded. And they used to give ranks in this Roman numeral. Funnily, I hadn't learned Roman numerals by then. So I saw this, this, the letter I. So I thought, what the heck is this? I thought maybe I didn't even get a rank. Maybe I got like a grade that was even lower than lower than F. I thought, oh my God, they gave me a grade that is lower than an F. And then I saw my marks were okay, and they seemed okay. I got good marks. Then they have this, they declare, they'll say, oh, they'll make everybody stand and clap. And again, this is not a good method. So they called out the 10th rank, 9th, 8th, 7th, 6th, 5th, 4th, 2nd, and then they called out the first rank, and I happened to get the first rank. I couldn't believe it. I absolutely couldn't believe it that I was, the smartest or the most hardworking or whatever, that I actually got a first rank. And I was really, really thrilled, shocked, because I was very sure that after this exam, my game will be up. My parents will know that I'm just an average kid, that they'll know that I'm not like first rank material. So I was really shocked. My dad and mom were very, very happy that I got a first rank. In hindsight, probably that is the worst thing that could have happened to me, actually, because in my own mind, that created an expectation that I had to be a first ranker. Now I had to maintain this. And And also because I was a very quiet child. I was not that great at sports. I was not um, by choice. Now I realize I was not very outdoorsy. I liked, like, reading books and playing at home and things like that. Of course, I'd play with the neighborhood kids and all that, but I liked activities that were more inward focused, not very extrovert. But nevertheless, I had a lot to say, I had a lot to express, and I still wanted to be in the limelight and be noticed. And my academics and my strength there was my thing, and my dance. So these two were my avenues. More dance than my academics, but my academics was a way to get noticed by my teachers, by my classmates. And the dance was for me to be on stage, get appreciation of the audience, my parents, my relatives. Those were my two avenues, because I didn't speak much, like, so, but nobody knew what was there in my mind. And I was not very, like, active and naughty, like mischievous kids that most people like. Those I was seemed, if you look at me, I would seem very quiet and more like an old woman. That was my personality. So, so I was very excited that I got first rank. But then the pressure came on how to maintain this first rank, because there was so much homework, so much homework. So, and now earlier my dance was very easy, because I used to stay back in Sylvania school. My dance teacher used to come to school and teach us. I never had to go anywhere. But over here, my parents tried their best to kind of see if somehow after school I could go to the other school where the dance classes were, because this school didn't offer any dance classes. They offered sports, but there was no attention to, fine arts like dance or music after hours. So there was nobody to teach me that. So they tried, but within about 3 months, they realized that it's not manageable, because my dad would be at work, my mom would be at work, and they couldn't find any rickshaw person or anybody who would take me from the school to that school. And my old school used to end at 1:30, and this school used to end at 3:30, 3:15. So there was no question of that. Weekend classes was very challenging. So 3 months or something they tried, but and then they just gave up. So they said, why don't you focus on your studies and drop out. I also had the pressure of, I was worried that I wouldn't be able to repeat this first rank um, performance. I was really worried, because I was somehow convinced in my mind that it was some kind of a fluke, that I didn't deserve it. I was so convinced that I was not that smart or intelligent or studious or academically strong. Um, so I also said, okay, yeah, I'll drop out, because I was worried that that'll this thing. So in hindsight, that was a very big mistake, because for me that was the avenue to express myself, and I lost that avenue completely. But I guess hindsight is 2020, right? So I dropped out of that extracurricular activity. So I started focusing on the studies. So something between uh, just around that period, what happened was there was still construction going on in the second story. So there used to be again, in hindsight, maybe it was. Maybe we took on too much, or but that's how all houses were built. So there used to be a lot of mud and cement and dust everywhere. And But back then we were not so educated about environment and protecting ourselves or anything. Like we didn't know. We were kind of ignorant about it. There was a small baby at home also, but everybody was inhaling everything. God knows what all I inhaled or what all everybody inhaled. Around that time, what used to happen is like from the time I was 5, as much as I can remember, when I was 5 years old, my mom purchased my grandparents, my amma and tataya, had a tape recorder at home. Okay. I feel they got it from the US. I don't know how the thing worked. Like, it was not a plug-in thing. Maybe they used to put batteries in it, I think. Yeah. So my mom always wanted a tape recorder of her own. And around the time I was 6 or so, she actually asked my dad for a gift, and she had a tape recorder. Later on, we upgraded it to a flat one, but this was like a narrow one, and you could only put in one cassette at a time, and it had those, you could record also. So actually, my grandparents and my uncles and aunts used to record us telling stories and all. For the longest time, somebody had a tape of me talking when I was like 2 years old, telling a story. Now I don't know where that is, but we used to. My mom used to record my little sister later on. Right now she was just a baby, but later on when she turned 2, she used to record her a lot. So in the tape recorder, what my mom used to do is she would uh, she would play this Bhagavad Gita, Ghantasala's Bhagavad Gita in the morning when she used to get ready for work. Every day, every day, every day. When I was a kid, I found his voice very annoying. But as I was growing up, because she used to play it every day, slowly I used to start listening to it here and there. And I started liking that voice. And without fail, my mom played it every day, at least for an hour. And she had the full Bhagavad Gita sung by Ghantasala, and she would be listening to it and getting ready. So, and here and there, I would listen to it too, but not fully like her. A verse here, a verse there. But I found it very soothing. So, around this time, my mom, she had wanted to, just before my sister was born, she actually decided to do her PhD. And but I think because of the pregnancy and all, and also she had to switch guides in the bit in middle. I won't tell the name of her older guide, but like it didn't work out very well. Like, he was not paying that much attention to her. He was very like career oriented. He wanted to become, and eventually did become, vice chancellor of Osmania University. So he was focused on all that. Like, he was not giving much time to her. So, and of course, she had a baby also. So that kind of created a setback in her plan. Meanwhile, slowly her co-workers, one by one, they started, embarking on their PhD journey, and so she was under some pressure to do that. This was in the very initial stages; it hadn't picked up yet. But this was in the stage where she was trying to decide, like, do I want to do like philosophy, or what does my what's the subject of my research. And again, she had a setback because she had to switch guides. So she started listening to these Jiddu Krishnamurti video tapes. And poor thing, she only had, she was managing so much. Like, my grandma was getting a little older, and she was not as efficient as before. She was still very efficient, but not when I was like in elementary school. And certainly my Bama was not so great with little babies. My Amma was very good with babies. My Bama was a little less confident with babies because she didn't really raise babies on her own. She didn't really raise my dad. Like, when growing up, they had a big staff, and so she was not so confident with babies. She was confident with housework and all that. So there was no, so my Amama used to come and help my mother. So that was going on. And this construction was going on. So my dad used to be very busy. In the construction, every day there'd be some setback or the other. Okay, like sometimes they would say that you should put a pillar, sometimes the cement would be less. And sometimes the cement would be like adulterated. Can you imagine that? You actually, they used to sell adulterated cement. So uh, you know um, and um, and because they fired the contractor, sometimes they would build a whole wall and then they had to kind of redo it. So there was a lot of that going on. um, the grill wouldn't, would start rusting, and then they had to paint it. Window panes, they would be ordered from somewhere else and they wouldn't arrive in time. All that my dad used to take care of. So my dad was very busy in that. So every day there was some setback or the other during that construction. So she was didn't have much support, and then she had to go to college also. So the only time that she could focus or learn something, like spend time on educating herself on where she wanted the research to be, was this time that she used to originally listen to the Ghantasala. So she stopped listening to that, and she started listening to this Jiddu Krishnamurti, who was a philosopher, his tapes on some human values. And I think she hadn't finalized human values. It was general life philosophies on life. And this Jiddu Krishnamurti, sorry to say, he had a very uninspiring voice, and I would not, it was so philosophical, I would not understand. By that time, I started so I started missing that listening to the Bhagavad Gita along with her. I would not consciously listen, but it was nice. It was very kind of peaceful, stable kind of feeling I used to get when that used to play in the background. But somehow, these tapes where it was a different voice, his voice was more not so dynamic as Ghantasala's, and so it was a little bit depressing actually. So I remember somewhat feeling somewhat melancholic whenever I used to hear my mom listening to the tapes. I'm not talking about the content, I'm talking about the voice that used to like play everywhere in the morning getting ready. So, so around this time, what happened was the construction was going on. So one day, my mom was was feeding the baby, like my sister. She was just a baby. She was 3 months old, I think 3 4 months old. So she was in her lap, and my mom was feeding her milk, or something. She was lying down, and she was definitely feeding her. At the same time, I was, getting ready for school, and I was having my breakfast sitting next to her on the bed. It was in the bedroom. I remember this very distinctly, and I was eating an omelette. I also remember what I was eating. So there was construction going on in the second floor, and suddenly what happened was they were banging on something. So because of that pressure, a portion of the ceiling, and it was not the ceiling as in like it was like the like the paint and the finishing surface of the ceiling, not actual like the brick or anything, not the cement, but a portion of the ceiling just snapped off from the ceiling, and it fell on us. So it snapped off in the shape of like an 8, like that. So there was a patch of paint, thick patch of paint and portion of that plaster. Okay, portion of the paint and plaster, like a large one, flat one, and the second thing was smaller. That was also paint and plaster, but it had some the actual cement also on it. Like it was a hard chunk of uh, cement. So those two were in the ceiling. They just broke up and they fell on us. So the flatter, lighter, but bigger chunk fell on my mother and the baby. But luckily, my mother was bent over, so she could somewhat break the fall. It fell on the baby, but the smaller, the 8 portion, the thicker one with the brick inside it, that fell on my head. And I got very majorly hurt. Like it hurt me, and it like caused a little cut here. But the baby was small and started screaming. So my mother was like, "Oh my God, what happened to the baby? What happened to the baby?" And the first time I realized that I was sort of invisible. Actually, I was very hurt, but I'm physically hurt. So, but everybody, baby was crying and screaming because she was more scared, like with us all screaming. Then I ran to my grandma's room, and then she consoled me and she put some iodine on my cut. Then every time somebody visited, my mom would always say, "Oh my God, that roof fell on the baby." Then I was only like 8; I had not yet turned 9. I would just pat her and say, "It fell on me too, on me too." but 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 she always forgot that. Always said that roof fell on the baby. The roof fell on the baby. Then I stopped correcting her. I said, "Oh, actually, I think they didn't realize that it fell on me also." So somehow this incident like slowly started taking me towards feeling that, oh, I'm not all that smart, I'm not all that, like, loved or something like that. Like, I can't put words into the feeling, but it started dragging me down a little bit. There was no reason for me to feel I was not smart because I got first rank, but somehow I felt like for sure uh, they'll they'll find out one day that I'm not that smart. so anyways, I'm way over time, but I'll continue. Next episode will be 8 no 9.1. This is 9.0. So I guess there's nothing to learn from this, but when I look back, I feel that I don't know, when I got that first rank, I don't know why I felt as a child that I didn't deserve it. So never feel like that about yourself, because success and failure comes and goes. But when you do are successful, take credit for it, because you are successful because you deserve it. Never think you don't deserve it. Never think you don't deserve anything nice that comes your way. You deserve every bit of it. So I'll continue in 9.1. Bye.